Would you guys consider yourself atheist or agnostic or?
I'd say more agnostic myself.
Agnostic.
Yeah.
Okay. So would you say agnostic means you don't know, or how would you define agnosticism?
I think I don't know, and I'm kind of open to anybody's opinion or ideas.
Okay, that's excellent.
I think there is something greater, but I just don't know what that is.
You say there's something greater, but you're not put a label on it yet, right? Okay. What about you? Same thing? Would you say?
Pretty much the same. Yeah.
Okay.
I think the term is meta-skeptic. I don't know what I don't know.
Okay.
So yeah.
All right.
Study.
So if you say there's a higher, let me ask then a different question then. If you say there's a higher power or something out there, that something created the world, would you agree?
Potentially, yeah.
Potentially or for sure?
Oh, potentially, I have no idea. That's
Okay, but my question would be then, if it's potentially, then the world has to come from somewhere, wouldn't you agree? Like, we know that, can I have something from nothing? Do you agree on that principle? 0 plus 0 plus 0 equals 0.
Yeah.
Can I have something, right? So if we have something, it must originate from something else, right? And if we say there's a higher power, then by definition, that is the thing that brings things into existence. Wouldn't you agree there? Or how would you explain the existence of the universe?
Well, I'd say it's not really within my capacity, or even like it needs to be in my capacity to explain its existence. I mean,
but you're a part of the universe, and if there is an impact behind your creation, then it does concern you. Like, for example, the point I'm making, if this creator created us, there's a purpose for him creating us, and there's consequences for our actions, then doesn't it make sense, or doesn't it matter for us to know why we were created or who created us?
oh yeah, no, it absolutely does matter. That's I think why we as humans are driven to find that out. It's not quite sure I found the right answer yet.
No, but excellent, yeah, but we can always investigate. Like, the thing is this, you've not met the person who made this table, right?
True.
But we can tell certain characteristics of the maker. Like, for example, we can know is intelligent, knows knowledge of language, able to assemble material, right? So these are certain things, has a level of power to assemble the material. We can know these things looking at the product or final product. Looking at the universe as well, you can tell attributes of its maker. Like, for example, with something that is not powerful, very powerful, would be able to create the universe. What kind of attributes, this is a question I would pose, what kind of attributes would you need to create a universe? If you wanted to create a universe with me already, what attributes would you need to create a universe?
Well, I mean, all of the classic ones, omniscience, omnipotence, all of those.
So we would say whatever brought the universe into existence, and we say this is a matter of fact, because otherwise you cannot bring the universe into existence. If you don't have the attributes to bring the universe into existence, you cannot bring the universe into existence.
True, but that's whether it was actually brought out by intelligent design or whether it just appeared out of something that we don't, as people, understand.
Well, we agreed that we cannot have something from nothing. So how can it just appear, right? The thing is, the universe is not a conscious being, right? It's matter, that means it requires another entity to kind of cause it, if you want to say, or create it or bring it to being.
To an extent, I'm not sure what happened at the beginning of the universe, that's the thing.
No, but that's what scientists themselves, they don't know. But they say there was matter. But if there is matter, where did matter come from?
I don't know. I don't know. And that's why I'm so happy to be here.
No, but I would personally, I would humbly say this. There's a lot of people who would say the same thing. They would say, I don't know. But there's a difference between I don't know and I do not want to know. There's also, there is a difference between I don't know and I live my life I don't know. But when you die, what will happen to you? And I'll tell you something very interesting. From an Islamic point of view, we believe there's judgment. Not only Muslims, but other religions as well. But specifically from an Islamic point of view, when a person is put in the grave, there's usually two answers are given by the people. We believe angels come to the person in the grave and then they question him. They say, who's your God? And what is your religion? And what do you say of the man who is sent to you? That doesn't have to be Prophet Muhammad. If you're at the time of Jesus, you'll say Jesus. If you're at the time of Moses, you'll say Moses. We believe in all the previous prophets, right? So they will come to you at whatever time you die then, and they will ask you about the messenger that will send to you. Now the person who doesn't believe, there is a common answer. Do you know what the common answer he will give? I don't know. So he will say, who's your God? I don't know. What is your religion? I don't know. What do you say of the man who sent to you? I don't know. And we say that's an issue, because the person who made this bottle, by definition, has given it purpose. Do you agree? The person who determined this is going to be 750 milliliters, right? The person who made it. The purpose is, for you to drink, reserve water, whatever it is, that is determined by the maker. Whoever makes something gives it purpose. So if we're made by God, then or whatever entity, whatever higher power, whatever name you want to use, right? Then whatever created us is what assigns the purpose to us. Do you agree? Would you agree with that?
To an extent, yeah.
Okay, so if then it would make rational sense. Not only that, it's very important and essential. This existential question of why we're here needs to be answered. And the thing is this: not only that, God doesn't just say this is the case. You'll live here. You'll have an existential question because you'll have an innate thing questioning why we're here. But He also sends you prophets and messengers. Like you heard about Jesus, Moses, Noah, Abraham. You're not a religious person, but you know these names and you know these people, right? So, and they all came with one message. There is a creator, right? There is an afterlife, there is accountability. Like for example, you live your life right now. Wouldn't it make sense to say that you should be accountable for what you do? Or should you do whatever you like to do?
I mean, to an extent, whether that, it certainly makes sense, and I'm sure there's a fairness to that. Whether it actually happens, I'm not sure, and I think there's many people who don't get it.
So how do you now before the consequence, which is what you're talking about, the punishment or reward, how do you determine yourself or you what is right or wrong in your worldview?
Morality is inherent, isn't it? It's a difficult one to define, but it's also you try and live your life situationally and do the best that you can. I think that's the same with anyone religious or not religious.
But best, the sentence "best you can" assumes you know what is best.
True.
So how do we know? I'm saying from an atheistic worldview or an agnostic worldview.
Using a combination of nature and nurture and inherent understanding of what is fundamentally moral or not. And again, like, I mean, there's things within every holy book that I think in today's day and age we would say probably not moral to do, but also it can be difficult to follow. So there's.
I would be happy for you to tell me what that is, but before we get into that, because I'm interested to know what you would say is not moral to do, specifically in Islam, because I don't speak on behalf of other religions. I don't think it's fair, even though I read them, right? But the thing is this: when you say nature and nurture, that is subjective, meaning that if you're born here, you'll have certain beliefs, certain morals. If you're born in China, if you're born in Africa, wherever you're born, you'll have certain beliefs and standards that you would follow based on your community. For example, I don't know if you know or not, but certain parts of China, not all of it, but certain parts, for example, you burn a dog alive and eat it. You consider it food. You would deem that to be immoral, I'm assuming, right? Because you're born in this culture and society, right? So depending on the culture and society, certain people will do different things to what you believe. Certain parts of Africa, women walk topless. I would deem that to be immoral, but they would do that, right? That's normally the community and society, right? So, if it was about nature and nurture, then do you agree from your worldview that morality is subjective then?
Yeah, to an extent that would be the nurture part of it. It is subjective, yeah.
But then there is no morality then. If you say morality is subjective, you just admit there is no morality, because the reason being is you can say X is right, I can say X is wrong, but X external of you and me does not have moral value. There's no objective morality. Morality doesn't exist. So if I determine one day I wake up and I'm crazy, I want to eat my baby in breakfast, I put it in the oven and bake it, I want to eat it, subjectively, and I say that's morally good, that would be morally good. Why would killing, raping, or stealing or anything be morally bad under an atheistic or agnostic worldview?
Under an atheist or agnostic worldview, first off we follow the law in general, and that's the law that has been founded without or with.
So if law says you can kill, rape, and steal, you can kill, it's morally right?
Of course not. That's a starting point. There is again something of an inherent morality. You can go to any one of those societies.
Do you know the law? I'm sorry to interrupt you, but do you know in the law in the UK is based on Christian?
It is.
Thou shalt not kill, the 10 Commandments. Because morality without religion cannot exist. That's a claim I would make now, right? Objective morality. You cannot have objective morality without guidance that is coming to you from a higher source, a divine source. You can have subjective morality, which is what you said, nature and nurture, which would mean there is no right or wrong. Like if I say, it's a very basic question. Like if I say to a person who's not religious, why is killing another human being wrong? Other than the law, because you see, there's many lands that don't have laws where you can kill other people actually in many parts of the world, even today. There are countries in which are completely chaotic and you can do whatever you want to do. There are many parts of the world.
The law isn't working. There's a difference between that and it being enshrined that the law is being possible.
But the assumption there is whatever the law deems acceptable is acceptable.
No, I'm saying the law is a starting point, and I think if you go to any one of those countries, yeah, I'm sure there is.
But they have different laws. Even the countries that have laws.
True, they do have different laws.
So what is moral and what is not moral? Because they disagree.
Again, to an extent it's up to the individual, but it's a combination again of nurture and nature. There are fundamental things that human beings know are not a good idea for us as a society to do.
But okay, this is the thing I'm saying again. You are saying they know it's not good, assumes that we know what is good and what is bad. It's as simple as this. I would say I agree with you. Subjectively, people know. Like subjectively, you would determine X is wrong. Subjectively, you would determine X is not wrong. But another person next to you, who's an atheist like you exactly, he will say, or agnostic, or whatever term you and I don't want to give you the wrong label, right? He would say the same action is right, or the same action is wrong. Essentially, you cannot, number one, determine what is morally right and wrong outside of human beings, because it's subjective. And number two, you cannot enforce morality. Because if I say to someone X is wrong, you'd say, that's your opinion that X is wrong. My opinion is that X is good. And morality based on my nature and nurture says it's okay. Based on my worldview, based on my whatever it is, it's okay. So we say that this is a big problem. So we say the human beings, in order for them to come to an agreement with something, there has to be something that they come to objective. True. We can say, okay, this is not my personal opinion. It's not because I'm the smartest guy in the room, you know, or you have to listen to me, you know. It's actually the divine entity that made me, that would know every detail about me and everyone else, determine this thing is not okay. Now you said some religions, or I'm happy to hear about Islam, why is it that you would see, because I'm coming back to that point, that you would see is not working for today's day and age, whatever term you use, or immoral? Do you have an example in Islam?
I've got in Islam, to an extent, no. I mean, I have.
Excellent.
That's
we won. Okay. I was just joking.
Nothing to do with death if you eat shellfish.
Eating shellfish, we don't have a problem with that. Yeah, any fish, anything which lives in the sea, you're allowed to eat as a Muslim.
Fair enough. Nothing wrong with homosexuality at all?
No, we have rules about homosexuality in Islam.
Yeah, you see that?
So we don't believe homosexuality, the act of homosexuality within itself is a sin. That's what we believe as Muslims.
I know.
But are you from this country?
Yes.
If I take you in a time machine in the 1940s, what was the general rule for homosexuality in the UK?
It's illegal, and that in itself was wrong. But
illegal is a very nice way to put that.
True.
Do you know in Marble Arch they used to hang people who were homosexual? If you go to do you know where that statue is and the stuff? This is what they used to do.
People would say that those laws originally came from like the Bible or Christianity, and now that
they do.
Religious society, kind of.
Excellent. So we agree. This is it. We agree. So right now you've changed morality from biblical morality, which is an objective standard still, into subjective human rules. Now we would say, why is the new human subjective man-made rules, which by the way follows something, it follows the Enlightenment period. I have someone who's called John Stuart Mill, and he had a principle called the harm principle. And he said, John Mill and John Stuart Mill, the Enlightenment period, he said that you can do whatever you want as long as you don't harm anyone else, do to others as you like done to yourself. All of these things that everyone in the West says, and you don't know the source. Many people, not everyone, many people are educated, many people are not, right? So this is where your beliefs are coming from. A man in the Enlightenment period who said something, right? Then you had the sexual revolution, people like John Money and Alfred Kinsey, and you had the beliefs you have today about homosexuality formed by essentially just people protesting. So the question is now, who determines, or why should we accept the new label for what is the position of homosexuality? Is it moral or immoral?
I'll give you one back.
Okay.
Why should I not square and stick with my brother, who is a proudly bisexual man, versus, no offense, but a book that was written 1,000 years ago?
Excellent question. But my question is, what do you mean by stick by? Like Islam, when Islam says, let me clarify something very important. When Islam says something is immoral, that doesn't mean now I get to do something that person doing it. Like we believe every human being commits sins.
So if my brother went to Saudi Arabia and acted upon his bisexuality, that would be absolutely fine.
Acted upon how? In his own privacy, in his own room, in his own house? There's no laws against that, even in Saudi Arabia. Because in Islam, the punishments are applied after evidence is established. And Islam has a very strict criteria of evidence. There's due process in Islam. Not only that, punishments are not vigilantism. They're not applied by the individuals. Contrary to what you may have heard on the media, that's not how Islam...
Oh, I'm not basing this on the media. Right?
Okay, excellent.
That's a lot better.
Okay, so what are you basing it on when you say Saudi Arabia? Because in Saudi Arabia, I know I've spoken to personal judges. Been Saudi Arabia plenty of times. I don't know if you've been there or not. I've been there plenty of times, so I'm talking from experience, right? But I'm saying even if Saudi Arabia does something wrong, from an Islamic point of view, something called due process. There's no punishments happening without evidence. And specifically in the case of adultery, etc., or homosexuality, it's a very strict criteria. You know what that criteria is? there has to be 4 male practicing Muslim men witnessing the act of penetration and willing to testify, describing it in detail to the judge. That's why in Islamic history, there's something very interesting. Islam has a very strong punishment for adultery. It's death, it's punishable by death, right? But that punishment, throughout Islamic history, I've not seen a single case in which the evidence was established and the punishment was there. Because it's very difficult. You have to literally do it in the middle of the street to have 4 male practicing men walking by, witnessing the penetration, and willing to testify. So what happens is, people come, and they came at the time of the Prophet, etc., and they say, we admit we've done this, we want to be punished. There's a woman that came to the Prophet ﷺ, in fact, at his time, and there was a punishment there, and she came and she said, we committed adultery. It's a case of Ma'iz al-Ghamidiyya. And she was pregnant. He said to her, go, you're crazy, go. He didn't want to punish her. She came back. He said, until you give birth and then come back. She gave birth. I said, until you finish breastfeeding, I come back. He's trying to tell her, repent with God, don't come back, he don't want to punish you, right? So these laws are not for punishment, but they are for deterring certain problems in society. You already see problems that come from adultery and families breaking and homes breaking and single mother homes, huge problems, right? So these punishments are there, and if the evidence is established someone is doing it in public, he will be punished, right? But the punishments are so strict to the extent that if you actually look at them, most of the time they are acting as deterrents rather than being people being punished themselves. That's why Allah says in the Quran, مَا يَفْعَلُ اللَّهُ بِعَذَابِكُمْ. What would Allah do with your punishment? If you believe and you're thankful, why would God try to punish you? He's not trying to punish you, right? But the thing is this, coming back to the idea of homosexuality, it's the same idea. That there has to be witnesses established. There has to be evidence. So if someone goes in any country, right, under Islamic law, and he does something in the privacy of his own home, we still say this is a sin. We still say he will be punished on the day of judgment because he's sinning against God. But in this worldly life, until the evidence is established, no one can do anything to that individual.
It's a very good thing no one's ever been extrajudicially killed for anything like that in an Islamic country.
Sorry, I didn't get it. You can say that again because
I'm saying no one's ever been punished for that in an Islamic country.
But again, now this is the problem now, is we have to separate between what people do and what religion teaches. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
For example, what's your name?
Max.
Max. If I go now and chop someone's head and say in the name of Max, should they hold you accountable?
No.
Okay, excellent. So if someone says I'm doing X for the sake of whatever religion or non-religion, that doesn't mean the religion is responsible unless I can find in the text teachings that says do that. So unless the Islamic text, the Quran or Hadith, says that you do whatever this thing that you're just saying, then we cannot hold the religion accountable for it. Just like, for example, you had people like Stalin and Mao killing millions of people and they were atheists. You cannot say, okay, you're atheist, you're responsible for because he was atheist.
True, but they didn't do those things based on their lack of
They did.
atheism. They did due to communism, and that we have.
That's incorrect. Stalin, in fact, was quoting principles based on evolution and based on atheism. He was saying, I'm doing natural selection, not doing nothing wrong. If you read his writings, they were understanding the premises of atheism. Because atheism entails something called nihilism. There's no meaning in life, there's no right or wrong, nothing. So they understood, they internalized the pre-assumptions of atheism, and they acted upon it. If there is no morality, then I'm just rearranging your head, which is atoms, from this position to that position. That is killing for them, literally. It means nothing. It's not morally wrong.
I've not met an atheist yet who doesn't have a problem with killing. Again, I've not met a Muslim yet who doesn't have a problem with killing either.
No, I've mentioned an example.
Yeah.
With Stalin, and you could read his right. I'm not making up something.
I've read his writings as well.
Yeah, okay.
No, I know.
So that is a historical fact.
Yeah.
There was someone who was an atheist and he did that. Mao in China is another example. If he had a problem, he did not kill millions of people. Hitler, another example of many people who can live evil lives, and killing someone to do something benefit for them, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who they can slaughter or do whatever they want to do, right? There are bad Muslims as well, and bad Christians and bad. But this is the point I was making. Individual actions is not equal to the religious teachings. Do you agree with that?
Unless the religious teachings are what drives a person to do it.
Exactly. So why is it in the Islamic teachings, that's the question, right? Why is it the Islamic teaching that you would have an issue with, that you would say, which is what you were saying, immoral in the beginning?
Should we go with having a woman stoned to death for committing adultery for men and only men see her do it?
That is not the case in Islam, and I would be happy for you to show me where is that in the Quran or Hadith.
That's why I picked up the Quran.
Okay, so I'm saying now, this is not the case. Punishment for adultery, the witnesses and all of that is applied for both men and women. It's just a media thing, whatever you just said.
No, as in
about women. No, that's also not correct.
Okay.
It's incorrect. In fact, the Quran is clear about the punishments for fornication and adultery. It says وَلْيَشْهَدَ عَذَابَهُمَا طَائِفَةٌ مِنَ المؤمنين, chapter 24 of the Quran, the first 1, 2, 3 verses, first few verses, the exact reference. It says, let a group of the believers, doesn't say men, witness the punishment. You look at the act and then they're deterred from the act when they see the punishment, right? So it has nothing to do with women witnessing or women being punished only.
What was the punishment that would then happen?
I told you it's punishable by death. That's what I was telling you. Adultery, no fornication.
Okay.
Fornication has a different ruling, because adultery is someone who's married, then he goes on and then he cheats, and a man or woman, and sleeps with someone else, right? Adultery and fornication, which is before marriage, someone commits the act. There is two separate punishments in Islam. So there is punishment by lashing, which is just, this is for fornication, not for adultery. Adultery is a capital punishment for it. So these are two separate punishments. Do you know? Yeah.
Appreciate that answer. You're very good.
Oh, okay. I'll let you read the Quran. Just think about what I said. You don't think about morality, as I said. No problem. Nice to meet you guys. See you.